We are recording this webinar, so be aware of that. The questions that you may have as they come up throughout the presentation, we'd ask that you please type into the question box on the control panel. If you have any issues with the technical side of the presentation, if you can't see or you can't hear, please also feel free to type those into the question box. And if you're following along online, you can find us on Twitter. Our handle is EPIP National, and the hashtag we use for these presentations is EPIP Webinar. We are going to be posting upcoming webinar dates soon, and I think that's part of the presentation later. But for today, I'm excited to have Tamir here to really shine a light on what is scheduled and what we're excited for in the coming year. So without further ado.
Thanks, Biz, and hi, everybody. I'm Tamir Novotny, the Executive Director of EPIP, and I am very excited to talk with you all about what we're up to in 2017. In the interest of not overpromising, we're not 100% sure just how many props and fun hats will be involved in our 2017 plans, but we'll be sure to get back to you on that, and if you have strong feelings about it, be sure to let us know. That didn't advance. Let's try that again. Okay. So let me just run through quickly what we'll be talking about in this preview conversation. So first, we're going to just be bringing you up to speed on some updates that we've been making to our strategy. We're about halfway through a strategic planning process. Second is some thinking we have around how we want to strengthen the programs that we offer you all as a membership organization devoted to your professional and leadership development and to expanding the success of diverse rising leaders in the field. Third, we want to talk to you about some programs that are already planned or plans for them are in the works. Fourth, we want to talk about some things that are a little bit perhaps farther off or things that we're working on or through that are in the hopper that we want you to be aware of. And if you have thoughts on them, we want your thoughts. We want to talk a little bit about ways to get involved and make sure that we take time, since you all have taken the time to hear what we're up to make sure that we're capturing your ideas about what you want to see this year and in future years. And that will inform our planning. So first, the strategy. So EPIP has been a member-serving organization for a long time. It started because our founder, Rusty Stahl, who was a fellow at the Ford Foundation just out of graduate school, was like, where do I go? And since then, EPIP has been a place where a whole lot of people have come through, found sort of their people, found ways to navigate the field, which can sometimes be quite challenging, found a way forward. And many of them literally stop me in the hallways at conferences and when I'm on the road to tell me that they don't know where they'd be if EPIP hadn't been in their lives. And that's something we take very seriously. And at the same time, in my now about a year in the role, we hear some very common themes in different conversations with folks, both in our membership and in our circle of partners and allies. One of them is that there are common barriers that many of our members face across institutions to their success. And that can have to do with identity, that can have to do with rank, it can have to do with generational differences in how people think or other issues. And so we want to, that's one. And two is that many of you have expressed a hunger to lead in a different way and to influence both your organizations and your field so that the practice that we see coming out of philanthropy is deeply aligned with our commonly held values. And so that's why you see this sort of reverse bullseye thing here in the screen. Our goal is, while continuing to keep members at the center of everything that we do, we want to be able to grow our influence with our institutions and with our field, and by extension, hopefully help our institutions achieve greater impact in the world on the issues that we care about, both as a community, but also supporting your individual leadership and leadership development. And as Biz said, if you have questions on this, pop them in the box, and either I'll answer them as we go, or we can take them toward the end. And there are going to be some opportunities to engage in that process very soon. So the first is that we will very soon be releasing a member experience survey. And you can see a sample question on the screen. It's not live, so if you click it, nothing will happen. And if you're trying to click it and nothing's happening, good. And make sure to do that when we send the survey out. The purpose of this survey is to really substantiate some of the things that we've heard from you all anecdotally many times already and get a sense of how universal that experience is. So this particular question has examples of things that would be considered sort of like job satisfaction questions that would be on like a job satisfaction survey you might get from a consultant. Some of them have to do with how your identity shows up or doesn't at work and what that means for you. Some of them have to do with how you feel your institution or the field of philanthropy does at living its values. It'll be anonymous. The institutions will not be listed explicitly. And the whole goal of this is to be able to represent the common experience of our membership and then use that to offer you all and our member institutions ways of addressing some of the challenges that come up and building on the strengths that may be highlighted. So keep an eye out for that. Help us get the word out. We want to get as many people responding to that as possible. The second piece is that it's really important to us to do our planning out in the open. And if you were at our conference, chances are you participated in our strategic planning. And so we've been doing some work on updating some of our sort of core organizing documents, our mission, our vision statement, our value statement, and that will help guide the work that we do and align it with this sort of expanded vision I talked about earlier. But more concretely, we're going to be talking about how we work. So what is it going to look like for us to, for example, help you guys feel more effective as internal and external advocates for the things that you care about? That's something that's come up repeatedly, and we'll talk about it more a little bit later in this session. What does it look like for us to exert influence as a community, and what's the demand for that? We can start getting into not quite brass tacks, but really like what does it look like in practice? How do you guys want to be involved in that process as chapters who are a critical part of our leadership infrastructure, as individuals, perhaps as self-organized small groups? We don't want to presume the answers and then find that there's no energy. So it's very important to us to have as many of you as possible join us for this part of the conversation. And we'll be saying more in the near future about what the mechanisms for that will be. Some stuff we may just put a Google Doc out and say, edit this if you have comments. Maybe looking at a town hall. We may be engaging some of you in small groups, for example, again, our chapter leaders to give us more detailed feedback. So just keep an eye out for announcements from us and how to be a part of it. Those should be coming between now and the end of March. And our goal is to have a final living plan in April that will guide our overall work for the next 5 years with some more specifics for year one. The next piece, as we've been going through this planning process, we've been talking a lot about the balance of the importance of excellence and the importance of equity. Because I think we're all passionate about seeing equity in the world. I think the times we live in demand it. And at the same time, people have been very clear that you can't have one without the other. Because if you care about equity, but you don't have the skills to advance it, it's very hard to be relevant. And you can't really have excellence if equity is not part of the equation. And that's for that and other reasons, we're looking at ways to strengthen the programs that we offer you all. And some of these things may look familiar, and you've seen different iterations of this, but these are the areas that we hear most often that our members have interest in digging into. So the first is just general skills development and learning the field. So those of you who've been around for a couple of years may remember EPIP Measuring a Leader framework that has a lot of really useful ways for thinking about your professional development for the year. So for those of you who are developing your PD plans for the year, strongly encourage you to check it out. The second is just learning the field. A lot of folks come to us and just want to learn how philanthropy works and some of the basics. And we have some of that, but we think that we can do a better job of organizing and packaging it. So we're looking at that as well. Strengthening our knowledge of equity and social justice, both on an issue basis, perhaps on a population or identity basis, and just how do we apply the different lenses that are out there for understanding how our work can address and eliminate disparities in the outcomes in people's lives and make sure that everyone in the world is treated with dignity, respect, and compassion. The third is internal and external advocacy. Often folks will tell me that they want to advance a certain way of working. They want to address an issue in their organization. They want to advocate for an innovation they believe in. But it's often very difficult, especially in philanthropy, which has an often unwritten set of rules to know how to do that. It's an art and a science. And the same is true of external advocacy, especially in this sort of political moment. Many of our members are expressing a lot of hunger for what does the moment mean? How do I show up? How should my organization be showing up? What does it look like to be a leader outside of my day job? And so those are things we want to dig into more. And relatedly, we want to help folks think through the way in which they want to show up as leaders. Often professional development is very skills based, but I think we all know from having interviewed for jobs or considered people for promotions that that's not all that there is to the equation. So we want to really round out what we offer and make the leadership side of things a little bit more explicit. So this is our initial thinking. This is all open to feedback and refinement. So if you have thoughts on this, please be sure to let us know. But as of now, this is going to guide our thinking, what we focus on in 2017 and beyond, and possibly make its way into our strategic plan. In terms of actual programs that are coming up, let's talk through that. So one, our webinar series. We're going to be putting out a call for proposals. Again, we really want to be supporting community leadership in everything that we do. So given those 4 areas that we just talked about, issues that are on people's minds, we're going to be crafting almost an RFP. And if you want to lead a session or you know somebody who would be great, send it in. I will tell you guys, I got started with EPIP National as a member years ago with a national webinar. It's a great experience and a great resume builder if you haven't led a webinar before. Second, our People of Color Network. We did this last year. We didn't call it the People of Color Network, but every year we send a delegation of EPIP members to a conference like Facing Race in 2016, the Equity Summit in 2015. The only reason there isn't a date and location attached to this is that we don't yet know whether PolicyLink is doing their Equity Summit this year. We haven't seen much on the web about their plans. So if they're doing it in 2017, that's probably where we're going to go, dates permitting. And if not, we'll be looking for a similar opportunity because we know that folks value those sort of experiential offerings. Third are local chapter programs. If you live in one of the 14 and counting regional markets where we have a chapter, I urge you to get involved. It's one of the most powerful peer connection, learning, and development opportunities that we offer. If you're a part of your chapter, I urge you to consider getting involved in chapter leadership at your next opportunity. Chapter leadership in particular, I would argue, short of board membership, it's the most potent leadership development tool EPIP offers today. It changed my life, and I think some other people on the line might say the same thing. Lastly, this year, our national conference will be held jointly with our coalition partners at Change Philanthropy. You can see the names of the other organizations at the bottom of that graphic with whom we participate. Change is a coalition of philanthropy serving organizations that build bridges between funders and communities. And our goal is to promote more intersectional approaches to equity work that take into account the different ways in which inequity affects different people. And for those of you who were with us in New Orleans in 2015, we're going back, we're bringing friends. We're very excited about it. It's a great place to have a conference. September 19 through 21, we may put an EPIP member specific convening for one day on either side of that. So that's a Tuesday through Thursday. If you can, hold the week until we can work out with our fellow organizers the details of that. I see a woohoo! Hi, Ben. That's Ben Francisco Movek from Funders for LGBTQ Issues saying hi. And by the way, I just want to acknowledge and thank all of the Change Philanthropy partners who are on the line right now. It's great to have you with us. A few things that we have in the hopper. So one is cohort-based programming. There's really not much of a substitute for more intensive, smaller group things where folks are sort of working toward a common purpose. We've piloted a few different programs like that over time. You may remember, for example, the inclusive leadership cohort that we did in 2015 with Amy Lazarus, which was fabulous. And so as we think about these different ways that we could be organizing our programming and the different goals we could be advancing through our strategy, we're also asking ourselves, what is the role of this particular form of program in those things? And, does that look like many different kinds of cohorts? Are there one or two that we do a year? What's feasible? We know we want to keep doing it. It's more a question of what it's going to look like. So stay tuned on that. We already talked about supporting member activism, so I won't talk too much more about it now. Just know that it's something that we care a lot about. A lot of the local EPIP chapters are out ahead of us already in doing this. And I want to commend folks for their leadership in responding to political events throughout the last year that I've been here and before that as well. So in many ways, we're catching up to them. And I talked briefly about Change Philanthropy, but it's part of a broader goal that we have of representing our community in more of a field leadership capacity. So in addition to Change, for example, I sit with a group that is working with the Forum of Regional Associations of Grant Makers to expand their strategy to include more national organizations like EPIP, like Funders for LGBTQ Issues, like AbbVie, and many others. And it's a great opportunity for us to represent the hopes, the frustrations, the concerns of our membership, and the kinds of stances that we want to see philanthropy take in the broader field, and make sure that when people know EPIP, they know just not just that we're a professional leadership development organization, but they know what we're about. And so that's something that we're going to continue to advance, that we're going to continue to experiment with, and we'll want to make sure that with things like the member survey and other things that we're working on, we'll want to make sure that what we're seeing is reliably representative of where our community has sentiments and ideas in common and where there's some creative tension. So I want to talk a little bit, we've peppered this throughout. Let me just talk a little bit about different ways to get involved. So one, again, if you live in, there's a map of this on our website, they're literally a ring around the country. If you live in a place where there's an EPIP chapter, I strongly encourage you to go to a chapter event. If you look at the events page on our website, there are many chapter events already up, and more will be coming as chapters make their plans for the year. If you don't have a chapter in your region, but you're interested, get in touch with me. My email's at the bottom of the slide. We've got a few people who we're working with around the country to start chapters in 2017 and interest from more places. So we'd love to talk to you. Two, write for our blog. It's a great way to practice your leadership voice. You can write about an experience that you've had that you've learned from. You can write about a question or concern that you have about the field. You can really, there's a lot of openness about it. And we love to have members on the blog. So definitely hit us up if that's something you're interested in. Many of our chapters set goals of having their members blog for the year because they recognize what a valuable practice it is. Propose a webinar. When we put out that call for our webinars, please put something in. You don't have to lead it yourself. If you just think there's somebody you want to see or there's an issue that you want to make sure we talk about, let us know. And that way we can be sure that we're building a schedule that really is responsive to what you all want to see. Please get involved in the open share part of our strategic planning process. It'll be a great experience. We know not everybody gets to be a part of strategic planning processes. It's very valuable to get relatively early in your career. We may not be a foundation, but we've been in foundations long enough that we think like them for better and for worse. So get involved. Tell us how you want to be involved in the implementation of it. Help us make it something that we all collectively own. And if there are things that you want to see happening in EPIP that have not been covered here, let us know. Get in touch with us. My business line is my cell. I forgot to include it on the slides, I'm sorry to say. But folks who know me know that you can call or text me anytime. If there's something you want to talk about, you don't have to know me to do it. So with that, we want to invite you all to share either reactions to what you've just heard or other things that you'd like to see us do in 2017. And we've just asked that you do that in the question box so that we can read out some of your responses. We'll just give folks time to do that. The question box should be in that toolbar on the right-hand boundary of your screen.
So also I want to give the option, if you don't want us to read out your name or if you don't want us to read out your feedback, that's okay. Just make a quick note and we won't do so. But everyone who's on the call, we're curious to hear about what you're hoping to see or what you heard on the webinar that resonated, so we can definitely underline the energy we put into that. So eager to hear what resonated with folks and what you're hoping to see in 2017.
And while you're doing that, here we've got some coming in. This is great. Okay. So here's what I'm saying. Provide assistance for grad students or those who work for government funders and might not be able to attend otherwise. Thanks for that, Benjamin. I'll tell you, every year we send a number of EPIP members to the conference with free registration and often with support for travel and lodging. We're talking with our partners at Change about how we structure that, given the fact that it's a larger group. So what we'll be doing is just a question of who's eligible and how big that pot is going to be. So that's definitely something that's on our mind. Everything we do, we try to price for access. That's why our individual memberships are half the cost of a gym membership. And if you live in a city like New York, it's less than half of a gym membership. And we try to do the same with our conference registration rates, particularly for members. So thank you for that.
One thing about that is just to note that in 2016, the way we were able to create a scholarship fund for the EPIP conference was in part due to the collaboration and leadership from members and chapter leaders who are part of our planning committee. So in terms of the ways that you guys can directly be involved in that, if that's something that's really a priority for you and you'd like to be part of planning similar initiatives for either Unity Summit or other programs in the coming year, we'd love to follow up with you and continue that conversation.
Yeah, and I especially want to thank, because some of you on the phone were part of organizing that, so I want to thank the folks who were part of organizing it. We had some of our chapters put in allocations from their budget. It was really a community effort and something that we hope to build on in the future. Somebody's saying they really liked the webinar series last year, looking forward to hearing more about it. We're looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to see what you guys, the ideas that folks bring to the table. I think it's going to be another year of strong offerings.
We do have a couple webinars that we're trying to solidify details for, and those will be posted as soon as we have the full set of speakers set up. We had mentioned in a couple of previous calls a hope of focusing on some topics specific to the inauguration this winter. We're working on making that possible. So please stay tuned on the website for more specific updates. And definitely, as Samir said, if you have ideas or you know people who would be great to lead webinars in 2017, either get us connected to them or yourselves immediately, or keep your eye out for that call for proposals.
Awesome. There's a question of whether we can share the slides. We can, right?
Yeah, those will go up on the programs portion of our website. You'll see where it says Wednesday webinars. By the end of the week, this webinar will be up there along with our full archive.
Great. Can we share more about the conference, speakers who will be attending, and topics? I can say a little bit about that. And Ben, raise your hand if I'm giving too much away. So the Unity Summit, again, it's going to be a joint effort, and the planning for that is actually just going to be kicking off soon. I can tell you what the themes will have to do with, if I'm remembering correctly, it's about resisting efforts that will be harmful to vulnerable communities. Will be about building power and things of that nature. And so it'll be a great opportunity. One of the things that I love about the Unity Summit, I went in 2014 as a member. It's very rare to have access to some of the people who come from some of the partner organizations. So like if you've never been to an AppD conference, they get a lot of really influential people. Same with many of our other partners. And so to have that intergenerational mix of people who represent very different ways of working is super powerful. And the content will likely be a mix from the partner organizations and the communities that they represent about things that are happening. And some of it will be about how we can all organize together so that philanthropy is playing a role in protecting the sort of bright lines that are being brought up in this particular political moment. I think that was the last question that we have. If others have questions, please feel free to pop them into the question box or other things that you'd like to see us do. And of course, that's an open offer if ever. Oh, we are getting more questions. Excuse me. Thanks, Biz. I'm a member of EPIP by way of a funder affinity group. Can you discuss what kind of programming may benefit folks like me who are not necessarily in direct foundation work? It's a great question. In fact, a lot of our members don't work for foundations. A lot of our members work for nonprofits. Some of them are fundraisers, consultants, freelancers. And so a lot of the content that we offer is relevant in different ways. So obviously for folks who are interested in philanthropy, looking to influence it or looking to break into it, there's a lot to be gained from the sort of philanthropy focused programming. A lot of the professional and leadership development work, whether it's webinars that we do on things like managing up or negotiation, things offered by chapters, which can have to do with everything from those kinds of questions to social justice issues, and the webinars cover those as well. A lot of them are relevant and applicable beyond foundation work. They may not necessarily be tailored to folks who work in affinity groups, but as I was saying before, we're still trying to figure out what the sort of small group cohort version of our strategy looks like. So if there were a lot of demand from folks who work in groups like yours, we would be open to figuring out what it would look like to be supportive of something there that would be a little bit more tailored.
I also, it doesn't have to be super formal organizing of a group of folks who have similar issues, but whatever challenges are coming up in your work are coming up specifically kind of in your role and or in your organization's strategy. We are eager to connect and learn about both the things that are going well and the things that are not going well for members and for partners in the sector. So opening the dialogue is the great first step for us to really hopefully be able to answer that question even more specifically to the challenges you may be facing.
Yeah. And our DC chapter leaders remind us that in DC there are more infrastructure groups than foundations. And so depending on where you're based, if you get engaged in the local chapter, you may meet a lot of people who work in organizations like yours. Okay, that's the last question we have right now. If there are any others, this would be the time. And if not, we'll give it another few seconds. But otherwise, we're happy to wind down. Oh, one plug I should make, especially since Ben is on the phone. Actually, I might get in trouble for this too, but Ben will forgive me. We're very excited that an EPIP member who's on the line, Brian Schultz, and I have been accepted to do a session at Funding For this year, which is it March 29th through 31st in Seattle. And we are super excited about it. It's going to focus on the experience of LGBTQ practitioners in philanthropy and how philanthropy can better support LGBTQ practitioners and movements. And so we're very excited for that. If you're going to Funding Forward, please find us there and let us know, because we may want to engage you in the planning for that workshop. But we're excited about it. That's something we hope to do more. So if your organization does an annual conference and the kinds of things we've been talking about are of interest to you, get in touch with us. And we'd love to work with you on potentially putting together a session proposal or helping you find people who could do what you're looking to do.
I just want to shout out a couple quick numbers. I appreciate that so many of you have signed up for today's call. There's great interest in this, and for me, that's an exciting sign of how much we can work together in the year ahead. But just to give you a sense of how big of a community you're part of is within the EPIP community, we have over 1,400 members at this point, getting closer perhaps to 1,500 at this point. We have over 50 institutional members who have even more benefits from the membership. As Tamir said, there's about 14 chapters that are active, and hopefully that number is growing. And amongst the chapter leader community, there's over 100, maybe closer to 120 people who are active chapter leaders who've stepped in to help decide what the strategy for bringing the EPIP mission to the ground in those regional areas what that will look like. So a lot of really amazing active people and engaged in different ways. I partly raised up all those different numbers to help you think about what are the ways that might be appropriate for you to get involved. If you're not a member yet, if you're not a chapter leader yet, or if you're just eager to learn more about what any of these different things mean, please feel free to reach out to us. Tamir shared his email. Mine is biz@epip.org. So please reach out to either of us so we can help answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, definitely. If you're not an EPIP member yet, we urge you to join. I mean, it's just the opportunities that you get access to for for a relatively low price tag. It changed my career. I think most of you know I was a member myself, and so obviously a big advocate. We have one more question. Will there be a way to join or volunteer with the planning committee for the 2017 conference? We're still working that out with the folks at Change. So we'll follow up with that, and we should also keep in mind that we will at some point start up planning for the 2018 conference, and that will be one that we do as a standalone, and we probably will get started with that sometime after the Unity Summit. So stay tuned for more information about that as well. And Lee, I'll be sure to follow up with you specifically when we get a better sense of the Unity Summit planning. Oh, and another thing, Ben, thank you for the reminder. One way that anyone can get involved with planning for the Unity Summit is there will be a call for session proposals once we've done a little bit more thematic work. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And just like leading a webinar is a great opportunity to grow your skill set and gain good experience, the same is very much true for leading a session at a conference, if not more so. So definitely give that some thought. Okay, folks, it's been a very efficient 37 minutes, so I think we're just going to give you some time back. If anything else comes up, please do get in touch with Biz or me. Our emails are both our first name at epip.org. We're always happy to hear from you. We're always happy to engage you in conversation. So just looking forward to a great year and looking forward to doing great things together.
Thank you, everybody.